Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 44 of Petey's Awesome Guest Panel. Tonight's guest is a stand-up comedian, writer, actor, and voice actor. You may know this gentleman's work on such TV shows such as Sarah Silverman Program, Corporate, and Another Period. He has done many animation voiceover works such as Dr. Katz, home movies, and currently on Fox, Bob's Burgers. In addition to that, this gentleman has hosted a weekly comedy musical called Tomorrow. My guest this time is Mr. Ronald Lynch. Ronald, welcome, sir. How are you?
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Good, and you? I've been a longtime fan of your work since I was a young lad, and I'm still to this day. I think you're one of the best.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
No problem.
My pleasure.
Now, before we get into the animation questions, and of course, Bob's Burger, because I have lots of Bob's Burgers questions, from me and from other fans of the show, because Bob's Burgers has a huge following, and they love the Ron character. They love the mild-mannered Ron character.
Cool.
My first question, though, is a cliche question, and that is, how did you get started into voice acting and acting? Like, when was your first big break into it?
Well, it's kind of a long answer, but I switched from geology to theater as my major in college, and then I wound up teaming up with a friend of mine from high school who went to college with me as a comedy team, and we did comedy for a while. And then Dr. Katz started up, and he had stand-up comics on the show, but he knew that I did a bunch of different things, so he had me on the show, and then I became a regular in the last season or the last two seasons of Dr. Katz. I basically recorded a bunch of stuff, and then whenever they didn't have enough time or one of the guests wasn't that great, they would insert a little bit of me to fill the time. And that's pretty much where the voiceover stuff started. Everything kind of came out of them. I mean, they did Science Court, which became Squiggle Vision. And I did that, and then home movie started. So voiceover, I luckily never had a voiceover reel or whatever at all. They all trusted me a little bit to come in and do things. So, and everything built on that. People who were fans of home movies, like I did Family Guy, and what's the other show that guy had?
American Dad?
American Dad. I did American Dad because they were kind of fans of the show. So I'm going to proceed to shut my phone off right now, which I forgot to do, which takes like 2 seconds. For me, it probably takes, there we go. Okay. And done. So everything went on from there, and I had to prove myself usually in the studio. And sometimes people would come in and ask me to do like 3 weird characters, and prepared or not, I would come up with those characters in the studio. So pretty fun.
Oh, okay. Now, you've also have worked on live action shows. Like, for instance, you've been on Andy Richter Controls the Universe. What was it like doing that show?
That's probably the most obscure credit that I have. We were friends from way back in New York on the old Conan show a little bit. And I went through the auditioning process to get on that show. And I got very excited that they wind up choosing me. And I was pretty happy about it. And then I saw Andy on the set that day, and I went, "Hey, guess who got a part of your show?" And he goes, "I know, I asked for you." Oh, great. So it had nothing to do with the audition, which was not, it did in a sense, I guess. But that show was interesting. I played a crazy morning DJ, which was pretty fun. Super fun show. I would love to work on that show for a while, but they got canceled, so that's too bad. Yeah.
But you were also on Corporate. Talk about your memories on working on Corporate.
That was the favorite live show I ever did. I mean, that was really super great. Everybody working on the show is funny. I liked doing it. It was one of those things where I really liked doing it, and I liked what they were doing, developing with my character. And the guy was both an idiot and also had stupid ideas for everything. So It was fun to play that character. And I was like kind of the older guy, Kevin, who was still working there for after a while. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed what they did with this show. I did a couple of the shows, watched one episode, I think, and then I started from the top watching them, and I just loved it. I just love that show. It's super funny. It's the best workplace comedy show. It's probably the funniest thing Comedy Central ever had. And of course, I'll never work for them again now, but that's a super funny show.
I
Did
see.
you enjoy that show?
I did. I loved your role as Kevin.
Okay.
I believe the character you played with Kevin.
It was pretty fun, and they let me ad lib a little bit, and that made it even better. They trusted me, which is great. As an actor, them trusting me to do some things was great. It was great. It was not restrictive. It was just really fun bunch of people.
Very cool. And you also, I believe, you played a doctor on the Sarah Silverman program. What were your memories working on the show and working, of course, with Brian Posehn, Sarah, and Laura Silverman?
Sarah, I've known for a while. I met her playing softball in Boston eons ago. I think she was playing shortstop, and I was running around the bases a couple of times yelling at her. But I love that show, and I played all the doctors, no matter what kind of doctor it was. They brought me in. I was everywhere from an AIDS doctor to I don't know if this is the range, to an abortion doctor, and I was everybody. I was all the doctors. I think I was a psychiatrist once, and all those people working on the show were also very talented and very funny, and it was really well written. The directing, Rob Schraub, director, was great. He worked in Channel 101 too, a lot of that stuff, which I would enjoy doing if we ever did any of them. Sarah's show is just great, I think.
Huh, very cool. And you also worked on another Comedy Central show called Another Period. What were your memories working on that?
Not great, but yeah, they were good. I did the pilot for that show, playing the butler, and I modeled him after Downtown Abbey butler, which is kind of what the show was modeled on too. And I did a pretty good job, I think. And then when the show came to air, they replaced me. And the funny thing is, I can't think of his name right now as the main butler, because he was more famous. And then the other thing that turned the knife was later I got an audition to come in to audition for one of the side butlers with like two other people. And I thought, well, I'll get this part. That'll be okay. And so they filmed an episode where we were all trying out to be the other butler. And I did not get the part or the role on the show. So it was pretty funny. Yeah, let's bring Ron in again and tell him he's not working on the show. It's a good show, though. I love all the people on the show, so it's one of those things that happens. I'm happy enough with everything else.
That's awesome. And you've also hosted the weekly, like I mentioned earlier, you hosted the weekly comedy variety show Tomorrow. Talk about that. Your memories, and of course doing the show itself.
Well, it's not been my life, but I mean, I've been doing that show for 15 years now, I think, or 16. I don't even know now, but we're online now. So I don't know if I count those lines, but I miss doing it live. But it was a show that we did every Saturday at midnight at a place called the Steve Allen Theater. And then we moved to a couple of other places after that place went to condos. And it was a phenomenal show. I mean, everything was happening. I was working with people that I loved watching when I was younger. And, the kids in the hall used to do shows there, and they would do my show occasionally. And I wound up hosting with Scott Thompson once. And I just thought that was so, surreal, just surreal working with him on stage. And he was asking me questions about what's going to happen. And I went, I don't know. I don't know. I can't predict what's going to happen, because I knew that he needed to be prepared when he did things. And I went, there's no preparation. And after the first segment, he just loved it. and we've had all kinds of weird acts on the show, and we had we weren't prepared for it, and it was a woman that I guess was kind of a burlesque stripper, but she did a bit with a fluorescent light, which you know, it was good, but it was not really that much fun for the people in the front row. That's all I'm going to say. um, but yeah, we had a lot of phenomenal acts on the show, and started out with Craig Anton and Brendan Small and I as three hosts, and anything went. People could do whatever they wanted. We started after a while. I just hosted the show by myself, and when I got bored, I would try to invent a different show. We wound up doing a show that was just 5 minutes. Everybody got cut off. The light and the mic would go off at 5 minutes. We did Crapshoot, where the audience would have no idea what's going to happen, and everything was pulled out of a hat. That's probably my favorite version of the show, which is really fun. And I've traveled with it. We've taken it to festivals and stuff, and we coordinate with the acts that are there to do a kind of a variety show. So yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
Sweet. And now you have done many voiceover works. Like, you know, I'm a huge fan of every single role you've done because, like, love cartoons. And, you know, one of the shows that you have done growing up, watching growing up, was, of course, Science Court, which you took part in, as you mentioned.
Oh, that's funny. I brought that up, and I was wondering if anybody knew about that show.
Oh, yeah. It was on ABC's One Saturday Morning. I would watch it
That's
every
right.
Saturday.
Yeah.
What about your time there?
So you love animation. I'm gonna guess at that.
Yes, sir.
Science Court was probably my favorite voiceover role I ever did, because it was basically a guy who was an action star, and he lived in this small town that had this court that would, well, you know the show. You can probably describe it better than I can. But he was like was that?
Oh, no, was that the episode where the giant thing fell because of the heat? Like you played the superhero, right? And this giant thing fell off because the metal of the thing was exposed to the sun. And so, was that? Am I correct, sir?
That was definitely one of the episodes, yeah. And I was like an action movie star, and I made the choice of him yelling everything he said. And once again, he was kind of an idiot, so it was fun to play him. But the one episode was about something in the air, and I remember one of the defendants or whatever. I think Paula Poundstone was the judge too.
Yeah, and Fred Stoller was the stenographer.
Was that?
Fred Stoller was the stenographer.
Oh, Fred Stoller, right? That's right. Yeah. And somebody one of the witnesses says, "Well, I think it had a lot to do with the air." And I think I'm the defendant, and I actually stand up and I go, "I love air," and that was my line, you know. And when I recorded that, I would have to be probably about 8 feet away from the microphone to do that part, because I would yell everything.
I still love that.
Like, most people would work on their really detailed voices, and I would just come up with a really basic thing that would make it easy for me. Yeah.
That show also had all the shows that have been part of Squiggle Vision or the Tom Snyder Company. I've always had the cast like yourself, H. John Benjamin, Paula Poundstone, Brendan Small, I believe, was on the show. Melissa Galsky was on the show.
Yes, Melissa is a producer with Bob's Burgers now a little bit. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Occasionally, yeah, she'll be pop up the credits at the end. Yeah, she was definitely at Home Movies, and that company that did Dr. Katz created all these shows. And Lauren Bouchard from Bob's Burgers, the producer, started out as an engineer for Dr. Katz. So, it's kind of a tight-knit thing. When you know somebody that does it right, then you probably just go to them, But yeah, it's a bunch of great people. And it works differently than a lot of the cartoons, but maybe you're getting to this. Yep. We would record Home Movies and Bob's Burgers together. Like, everybody would be in the same studio, or in the case of Bob's Burgers, New York and LA, and you would hear everybody. So there was some ad-libbing. home movies, we would do the script, and then we would do it all. We would start from the top all over again, and do whatever we wanted, but in the script. You know what I mean? We would still follow the script, but we were ad-libbing things all the time. I think that's how those kid characters from home movies were created, when John Benjamin and Brendan did those little voices. You know, I can't remember what their names are. You know, the kids.
Brandon and Jason.
Yeah. They did the kids. Was that their name on the cartoon?
Yeah, Brendan, Jason,
Oh, okay.
Melissa, and of course you had the kids like Walter, Perry, Shannon.
Walter and Perry. That's who I'm talking about.
Walter and Perry.
I think they just created them in the studio one day, and they went, "We got to hang on to these guys."
I have to ask you, Mr. Lynch, no pun intended, because I know that's the character you played on the show. But when you're doing voiceover, like I heard on a commentary one time of The Simpsons, like that Kirk Douglas, when recording one episode when he cameoed, hated wearing headphones because it hurt his ears while doing recording. What's your opinion on using headphones during recording sessions?
Wow, that's a good question, sort of, and I can't believe I'm saying that's a good question. It is a good question, but because you don't have to hear yourself. But I myself tend to be too loud sometimes, so I enjoy wearing the headphones because I can tell how loud I'm being. And I just got, I'm loud now. I know I'm too loud now, probably, but headphones are great. I think they're great, but you don't need them. You don't have to wear headphones. It's not like it's not going to get recorded any differently. The engineer, it's up to the engineer totally.
Oh, okay.
And what have you asked that question of everybody, or?
Yeah, I always want to get like different perspectives, like on the headphones. I asked a bunch of voice actors and actresses. Some prefer it, some don't prefer it. Like that's why I want to get your opinion on it.
Right. I mean, I do some Zoom shows and things, and the guys are wearing headphones so they can hear the thing, and I think it's fun for them, but it doesn't look good. It's not a good look wearing the headphones, I don't think. And I'm happy you're not wearing any.
I just have this microphone right here.
Oh yeah.
No, but another question I always ask voice actors too and actresses that when a role requires you to scream though, and this is what I always wondered. Like I had Pat Music on the show. She told me like whenever she screams to always drink like hot water or hot tea. Had Roger Bumpus on the show who voiced Squidward Tentacles on SpongeBob. He loves screaming. When you're required to do a role to scream, Ron, do you like it? Or what's the method like to help you prepare yourself to scream for that role?
Yeah, I don't have a hard time getting loud or making noises, I think, or whatever. And I did like voice training and things in theater when I did theater for many years. And you tend to project and you tend to use your voice the right way. I mean, screaming, you can totally hurt your voice if you're doing it over and over again. And you're tight, and you're just really tight when you're screaming. That hurt me just now. Why am I trying to illustrate the worst thing you could possibly do? Yeah. So you have to make sure you're not really tight when you're screaming. That's like the obvious thing to me. But I don't mind screaming. Ah! Sorry. Okay.
And we talked about home movies though. One of my favorite shows of all time will always be home movies. I had the first season on box set right here. I loved your role as Mr. Lynch on the show. Definitely one of my favorite characters. Maybe what my favorite adults on the show, aside from Coach McGurk. That I just want to get your opinion on working on the show, and of course working with Brendan Small and Melissa Galsky, and of course working with Sam Sater and H. Don Benjamin.
Right, all of which, well, except for Brendan, work on Bob's Burgers, because Brendan has his own projects now. But yeah, working on that show was like a ball. It was just really fun. It wasn't work, as they say. I mean, it really wasn't work. Those guys were all great. I've done a couple of other pilot things with John Benjamin. The two of us work really well together, I think, which is understandable to you and to me. I think the first season of Bob's Burgers, we are at each other a lot more, and we're yelling at each other a lot more. It was because of him saying about my tiny mustache that they drew that crazy mustache on my character, which wasn't planned. And then I was stuck with that mustache as a cartoon character for the whole season. I mean, the whole run of it. Hey, I could have cut it off. Why didn't they have that for it? Okay. Yeah, fun show. And when I moved out to LA, I could just go into a studio and record with those guys, just wearing headphones and listening to the show as it was going on. Brendan, two of us hit it off at a comedy club one night. I wound up doing a sketch with him because his partner didn't show up. And I think the sketch was about ham or something. And we were just talking about this, and we couldn't remember what the sketch was. But the guys from Dr. Katz came to see me perform. And then Brendan, we hung out with those guys. And then Brendan told them about his home movies idea. And the next was history, of course. But yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question more as directly as you wish, but it was a pretty fun show. It was really fun. Probably my best job ever because it was consistent and I was on the show a lot. Bob's Burgers, send your letters in to get more run on the Bob's Burgers show. It seems like they've been thinning out a little bit on Bob's Burgers using me. I'm in the movie though. They're coming out with the Bob's Burgers movie.
I can't wait.
I think I'm allowed to say. I think everybody knows about it. You know about
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah, I knew about it. I know it was wasn't it like in post production and it's always been delayed. It's been delayed like a couple of times.
It's been delayed a lot. Yeah. I think they were setting me up at like November, I think. So yeah, it'll happen.
I do want to ask because there's so many, great episodes on home movies though. Like one of my favorite episodes, of course, you're in it, so was Renaissance. Did you have a favorite?
I just ran into that episode. I rarely look at it, but I saw it. I was watching Cartoon Network late at night, and there it was. It was that Renaissance episode, which I think is so corny and pretty fun. Yeah, what were you gonna ask? I'm sorry.
No worries, sir. I was gonna ask, like, did you have a favorite episode in general, or any favorite Mr. Lynch episodes?
I like that episode a lot, the Renaissance episode, because we were like characters. We were playing like characters within the characters, so it was pretty fun. And McGurk and I were at odds again, yelling at each other, and me mad at him for just fooling around and not working hard enough. And yeah, it was pretty fun. And it was like it was like sci-fi. Was there a sci-fi convention or a group?
Yeah, it was sci-fi
group also, right? And they were fighting us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun episode.
I think Patton Oswalt played the person at the sci-fi convention.
That is correct. Yes, you're right. It was Patton Oswalt. Yeah, I was in the studio with him. Yeah.
I just love that episode because, like, the first lines you hear from Mr. Lynch, because Mr. Lynch is always portrayed as a no serious, mild-mannered man, but here he is playing Moylan, as he said, Moylan, good morrow. Which I loved your performance in that episode. And
oh, thanks.
And
thanks. It was fun. It was one of those things when you're having fun, you know what to bring to the thing, and it was really great. There's nothing worse than having a director go, no, louder, no, I don't like this word, and then you're thrown off a lot. So any of the cartoons actually I've worked on with that company have been fun and fun to do.
I also I'll never forget the episode where Brendan and Jason, they gain weight and they start to lose it. And that's the episode where Mr. Lynch and Coach McGurk go on a double date and they start taking disses at each other. And I remember you saying this haiku, and it goes like this. There once was a man named McGurk who was fat and dumb and a jerk. and then when you guys are traveling in the car together, you're like, that he said, he calls Lynch, he goes, you're an idiot, and you go, that's great, can you put the seatbelt on? I know it won't fit you, but
wow, you are obsessed. Oh, no, I'm kidding, but yeah, that's one of those things where I don't have a direct memory of those shows unless I have just seen them. but it is funny that people do that to me. They go, "Hey, remember that episode you were in and you did this and that?" And I said, "Well, not really, but I remember making that episode, I think."
Another one that everyone talks about though is the Halloween episode, in which Mr. Lynch, loves cats. Would you say that reflects on your own love for cats, like the way
No.
Mr. loves it?
I didn't mean to cut you off, but Brendan, I think, wrote that episode, or he and Bill Broadus wrote the episode just to get me and make me say all those ridiculous names for the cats. And sadly, it's in my head still somewhere, all those names. You probably know what they are, but I had 5 cats?
Yeah, and I think one of them was Mr. Whiskers. I think was one of them.
Mr. Whiskers, yes. I think that was always the punchline. It was 5 cats, really weird names, and Mr. Whiskers. Wow. Yeah, that was my least favorite episode, I have to say. If it's the episode I'm thinking of.
I remember some lines in that episode where you go, "Kitty, kitty, meow, meow, my girl. Kitty wants his milk."
Yes, that's it. Yeah, they made me say those things, which was kind of crazy. It's funny because it's like an inside joke thing on their part to get me to do that, but somebody who's seeing the cartoon would not know any better. They wouldn't know any better. I mean, right now, my girlfriend has 2 cats, and I'm very allergic to cats, so I'm dealing with that part of it too. I like dogs. I like dogs better. I have to say that. I know you didn't ask for that information, but you're getting it.
No. Listen, I have a love for turtles and tortoises. I actually have 3 myself, so I can definitely relate on the animal aspect.
You can easily catch them. They can't get away.
Yeah, and I do want to get your opinion though on the change of direction as far as animation goes for home movies. I mean, we had season 1 was Squiggle Vision, and then from season 2 to the final season, I believe, it went to Flash animation. Which did you prefer better, and how did you feel about the change in animation?
Yeah, the Squiggle just came out of the Dr. Katz Squiggles, and it was the same company at the time, so they were just adding it to be unique, and I didn't care. I like both of them. I mean, it didn't affect me that much. I preferred just regular Flash. I think I have to say that now that I'm talking about it, because the Squiggle. I mean, people were irritated by that. You're watching it, and your eyes are almost start vibrating with the picture that you're watching. It was trying to come up with a unique way of animating, I think, right?
Yeah.
And I remember them all sitting, everybody that worked at, it was Soup to Nuts eventually. I forgot what it was called before that, but Soup to Nuts was the company. And then, they had so many people behind computers making one scene for the cartoon, and then they would put it all together. I don't know exactly how Squiggle Vision. It's obviously the way it was drawn. There was 4 outlines or whatever to whatever the character was, and they would animate the outline around the person. So yeah. Now that I'm saying it, I feel like I'm coming off as being irritated by it, but it didn't bother me that much. But some people were really bugged by it. You probably heard in your conversations.
Did you have a favorite Mr. Lynch line?
No, I can't think of that now. I know there's a scene, and I don't know what it's from, but it's me and Brendan at the desk, and so you want to do that, and I want to do that, and you want to come over here, and then we just keep adding phrases on top of each other. And if I could remember that dialogue, that would probably be my favorite set of dialogue with him. I don't know if we made it up or what, but when I saw it recently, probably 2 years ago, it made me crack up.
Huh.
But I don't have a favorite line, I guess. No, I don't. I don't hang on to that.
I see. And another episode I love where you were just prominent in the episode was Bye Bye Greasy, and this episode featured, of course, Emo Phillips as Shannon.
Oh yeah.
What was your memories working with Emo?
Well, Emo and I are friends. He's done my Tomorrow Show many times, and it's always a phenomenal show because you know, people come to the show, but some people come to the show to see him. And him and I, when he and I work on stage together, I become the best straight man ever because anything I say or anything I would bring up, he could come up with something funny about it. And super funny guy. He's on the edge of genius, yeah, if not genius. And working on the show with him, I don't remember that much about working with him because I don't know if we were in the studio together on that show. Yeah, I don't think so. I think he recorded in Boston and I recorded in LA at the time for that.
I see.
But he's great. He's super funny, you know. He's super funny. It was great having him play a villain too, or play a bad guy. Is just great.
I have to ask you this too because I always wondered this as a kid. Is that his real, like, is that how he really talks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. He may add a little more to it on stage, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, his voice cracks more on stage, but I don't think I'm revealing anything by saying that. But yes, he does talk like that.
Okay. No, because I've seen every interview he does, and it's like I thought it was like only for the show, and then I watched a couple of interviews, and I see it's the same voice.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It just cracks more, I think, when he's doing the character or whatever. But like when I work with him on stage, he's being Emo Phillips, you know, and adding jokes. He's not doing his stand-up, you know, in which he's moving his hair and he's pretty much just standing there performing with me. Super funny guy.
Cool.
Super funny guy. And we will put a band when he did my Tomorrow Show, we would put a band together and do songs that he wanted to do, like 30s 20s song, you know, old fashioned songs, and it was pretty fun. Pretty fun.
Okay. And before we get into the Bob's Burgers question, because I am a huge, I mean, my father and I remember when we to this day, remember it was 10 years ago when Bob's Burgers debuted. Me and my father were watching it when it debuted on Fox, which you were in the episode. But before we get into that, though, I do want to get your time working with Jonathan Katz, because you worked with him on both Dr. Katz and Home Movies.
Sure. He's great. And he actually, when I started working on Dr. Katz, I would come in with like an idea and some dialogue and everything, and he would just challenge me by going, all right, we're not going to do a script, but we'll come kind of do those ideas. And he said, you start. And he would just go, you start. And I would start doing my idea of what the joke should be. And he would add in and it would change. And it was more organic that way. He's a super funny guy. It took me a while to get used to him. He would hang up on you on the phone. He would talk to you on the phone, and in the middle of the thing, since we were kind of done, he would just hang up. And it took a while to get used to that. But then I realized it's funny. What he was doing was being funny. So he's a great guy. He's just a great guy, very talented, and he's doing online Dr. Katz shows now, I think, where he brings on guests and talks to them. I've also done comedy festivals where he is featured interviewing people, which I did a couple of times. Yeah, he's great. He's a great guy. He works hard. He works very hard.
Yeah, awesome. And I gotta check those episodes out. Now with the Bob's Burgers, though, I gotta ask you because I'm a long-time fan of the show. There's other people that fan of the shows. In fact, one of the questions I got from a fellow fan and also myself, Nicole DeBonis and myself want to know, how did you get the audition for Bob's Burgers?
Well, once again, it was just from doing something beforehand. But Lauren Bouchard, the producer now, put together the pilot for Bob's Burgers to try to sell it. And the pilot originally the head inspector was Andy Richter. It was me and Andy Richter, not Sam Cedar. And I think even Stephen Wright, they were trying to get Stephen Wright on the show somehow. And Fox didn't want Andy on the show for some reason. and I can't remember why, and didn't want Stephen Wright on the show, which to me was crazy. But yeah, I just did the pilot. I was just asked to do the pilot, so there was no auditioning for that. I'm trying to think of how many things I auditioned for that was a animation thing, and then I got it. I think was maybe 2 things that I went in for and auditioned and got it. But otherwise, people would ask me, and then I would try the voice out maybe for them or something, and they would say, "Yeah, that's it." In other words, I was almost hired, but they wanted to make sure that what I was going to do was good for the show. So that, in a sense, is an audition. Yeah, that is an audition, Ron. Stop saying that.
Now,
So yeah, didn't audition for Bob's Burgers.
cool.
Yeah.
Bonnie Romos from Facebook asks, what's it like working on Bob's Burger and working with the cast? And are there any funny stories you could share during the recording sessions?
Wow. Nothing crazy ever really happens during a recording session that I can think of. I just know in LA where, it's like 6 mics in a semicircle, which is not now because of the pandemic, but there'll be 6 mics in a semicircle. And then in New York, they would have a bunch of other mics together and we would hear everybody. My excitement, I mean, this is a side note, but I got excited that I had dialogue with Kevin Kline, who was in Bob's Burgers, playing the landlord, and always been a big fan of his. And I tried talking to him. I said, Kevin, I'm a big fan. And as I was doing that, they went, all right, let's go. And I was unable to actually talk to him. And that was the only chance I had, I think, at that moment. Nothing weird, I don't think ever happens, except that occasionally somebody will ad-lib a line that is really funny, and then everyone's laughing so much that it delays the recording a very long time. And I'll give it to Lauren, the producer, in that he will just let it go because it'll keep you in a mood to be funny. He doesn't push it. He doesn't go, okay, cut it out, let's go. And he doesn't even talk like that. He'll never have an iron fist in the recording, which is great. Otherwise, nothing really weird happens in the recordings. The fun happens too when we have lunch up on the roof and we're all eating lunch. We're loose, we're having fun and goofing around. But in the recording session, that your time is affecting everybody else in that recording session, so you're not going to goof around too much. You don't want anything crazy to happen. So no.
You mentioned you guys had lunch, during the after recording sessions or during recording sessions. Do you guys have burgers for lunch?
That's a funny question, but you could have whatever you wanted. I don't eat beef, so I wouldn't have had that, but I'm sure people do eat them, and I'm sure people after a while, because of the show, would get tired of eating hamburgers.
Bonnie Ramos also wants to say, she told me to tell you this, that she loves the Ron character and she feels so bad he has to work with someone like Hugo.
She knows it's a cartoon character, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she just feels bad.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, it's basically the 2 characters are summed up with me saying, "Hi, Bob, Ron." That's pretty much the 2 lines of dialogue that happen a lot. Him being mad at me for being friendly. I've actually gotten fan mail things from people that like my character in that he doesn't get affected by everybody's problems around him. He's kind of gentle and kind of quiet. And people will write saying, I had problems with depression and blah, 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 but your character, and it's like, wow, I never had that much weight on my shoulders for that character to do his job. But he is probably the the character that's the most like down to earth and not really affected by too much, doing his job. They tried rewriting my character a little bit so I could expand a little and have like side jobs. Like I wanted to get out of food inspection, so they had me try to be like a detective once, and I got pretty excited about it. So it was so that the kids could use my detective equipment to find out something about the grandparents, I think. And uh, we did the table read on Wednesday. Friday, I got an email saying Fox doesn't want your character varying from who he actually is. So that ruined like a lot of gigs for me. They didn't want him doing anything but his job as a food inspector guy. Though I've done a couple of episodes where I didn't do the food inspection. I helped the kids drive a what were they called? It's not a horse-drawn cart, but it's like a little cart. They needed me to be in the cart and for them to jump in the car. That'd be up to you to figure that out. Does that ring a bell? No.
I just know that you played, aside from playing Ron, you played another character in the furniture episode where I think you were a fun, I forgot what it was called, fun exec, where like I don't know what the character was named though, but I know like when they were getting a new couch, I think you were in that episode as a different character.
Yes. I remember doing that. What was the question actually from the beginning of this?
I just said the comment. I mean, just that she wanted to say that she loves the Ron character, and then she just feels bad that he has to be with someone like Hugo.
I agree, and I think there should be more of me. I think I should get the job. He should lose the job as main inspector, and then I get the job.
You should have a badge too. Ron should have a badge. In the first episode, he said he didn't have a badge because he just started.
Right. And do I ever get a badge? No, I never get a badge.
You should have. And you mentioned how he's so like friendly and so gentle. Like I remember the Valentine's Day episode. Just because Hugo was being very spiteful to Bob in that episode, it was Ron that showed Bob where the love tester was, like the address to where Hugo was with the love tester in order to buy it from him.
That's right. Is that good or bad?
That's good because he's helping the Belchers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm not. The funny thing is that company, because of it, I don't know why they ever started doing it, but I've never been called anything but Ron. All those cartoons or Mr. Lynch. Brendan, in the background, my name was Ronald Lynch on Home Movies, but Brendan made sure in the writing of one episode there was a check that I wrote out, and the check said Donald.
I remember that.
Lynch. So he established my name with that check as Donald. And I think that was like in season 3 or something. So it was like, oh, thanks for taking away my name. It doesn't matter. But yeah, Bob's Burgers, Home Movies, and I'm sure there's something else where I was Ron. Corporate's like the first time I wasn't Ron. The writers didn't go, all right, he's not Ron in this, which is good. It's better for a character that it's not me.
Not only were you Mr. Lynch on Home Movies, but weren't you also Mr. Lynch on Lastin' Dads?
In what?
Lastin' Dads.
Last what?
Lastin' Dads.
Lastin' Dads?
Because that's what it said. Like when I did research on you, you said you got a credit as Mr. Lynch. Like,
oh well, Raising Dad.
Raising Dad.
Yeah, Raising Dad with Bob Saget, which was a live action sitcom with Kat Dennings and what's her name? She played Captain Marvel. Who played Captain Marvel? The girl. The woman on. Yeah.
I have to double.
Right? It's not animation. Why would you know?
Yeah, silly me.
Anyway, the two of them were the kids on the show, and I was the auto shop teacher on that show, and once again, Jonathan Katz created the show, and I didn't know that when I was auditioning until the until the casting person told me that, like, after my audition was done. I went, oh, I'm glad I didn't know that ahead of time. And it was up to me and Andy Kindler. You know Andy Kindler?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of
Mort,
course.
Mort,
He's
right?
on Bob's Burgers.
Didn't he play Mort?
He plays Mort, yeah. The two of us went to college together. He and I were up for the role of the math teacher on Raising Dad, and he got that part, which is too bad. I could have bought a house by now. Anyway, that was a great show. That was really fun. And I know it's not animation, but that was one of my fun jobs too. Because that was like just a really nasty guy, which I had never played as the auto shop teacher. And just a little sidelight, and it's kind of a Hollywood story, but I was auditioning for Andy Richter Controls the Universe on the Paramount lot, walked over to say hi at the Raising Dad set, and security was kind of high at the time. But I went in there, and the director goes, hey, how are you? I said, yeah, pretty good. He said, are you gonna be around for a while? And I went, yeah. And they wound up putting me in that show as the bartender, and I got to ad lib with Bob Saget. And then they were gonna have me back the next season as a guy who can't hold a job down, having a new job every show. And then the show, of course, wasn't renewed. But it was pretty fun that I got walked on the set of the show and got in the show that day. Weird. Okay, back to animation.
Adam Wilson wants to know, he's a longtime fan. He wants to know, what was your favorite part playing Ron?
My favorite part playing Ron. What does that mean?
Like, what did you like about portraying the character?
Oh, what was the favorite part? Right. As far as Bob's Burgers goes, it was because I felt like I could play that kind of, it's kind of a kind of one note kind of guy, and kind of still bring in extra lines maybe, or still try to correct somebody, and try to hold down what's happening in that scene. It was really fun in that it was sparse, so it let me watch what was happening around me and kind of react to it. It's also something in your head, I think, as you're performing that part on the show, where you're not really the most important thing about the scene, but it becomes a little important when you wind up stopping an argument, or saying something at the right time to stop whatever's happening. Yeah, I love that part. I love Bob. I love Ron. I almost said Bob. I love playing Bob. That's what I was playing the whole time. Okay.
Did you have a favorite Ron line, or favorite, like, just scene with Ron in Bob's Burgers?
No, like I said, it was fun for me to come in, and there'd be some kind of scene happening with Bob and his wife, and then we would come in as the health inspectors, which would of course make it kind of worse. And I would just go, "Hi, Bob." I would just say, "Hi, Bob," and which had I wasn't arguing or trying to figure out the scene at all the whole time. That's probably my most fun thing about that part. Yeah, or that line is probably one of my favorite lines. Yeah.
I see.
Also, the show where I was at the puppet theater. There you go. There's another thing. I wasn't the inspector. I took the kids to the puppet theater to learn how to make puppets and everything. That was pretty fun. I can't remember any lines from it, but it was a pretty fun show to do.
Two of my favorite lines that Ron has played in your character, though, and I'm going to ask you a question about one of the lines very soon. But one of my favorite lines, and I remember me and my father would sing it along with. It was the episode Lobster Fest, and you were singing "Wingman, Wingman." We just
somebody for my birthday made a very I have to say irritating video of me saying that over and over again for 30 seconds, and it was just a picture of Hugo. And then I wrote to them. I didn't listen to the whole thing, and they went, "You're at the very end." So I had to watch the whole stupid thing, and then at the very end they showed me singing it. Yeah, Wingman was kind of made up in the studio, and I think I think it was just a line, and then I think either I was singing, either I sang it quickly, and I thought that was the end of it when one of the producers and Lauren was sitting there, and they went, "Wait, let's make a song out of this," and we wound up singing that whole thing about being a wingman, and it became like a pretty great song. I think it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Um, I do want to ask too, one of the lines, and maybe you could tell me like the meaning of the line though, and it was in Human Flesh, where you and Sam are like, you talk about how like we could do the test right now in the lab, and then you say this the line where it's like, if it's yellow, it's salmonella, if it's chartreuse, it's a deuce, and if it's blue, it's your Aunt Sue. What does that line like mean? Like,
The fact that you think that I know the interpretation of that line is pretty funny to me. I have no memory of it. I know I've seen that show. So I'm sorry to say my answer is I have no idea what they were doing there. I think it was just a line written because it sounded funny. Right?
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then you hear Sam go, "I know, Ron. I know the line. I know the rhyme."
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Now, working with Sam Cedar, because you worked, in the studio with him, right?
Well, he's in New York, so he may have been in LA once, I think, that we recorded together, but yeah, he's always in New York, and which is good because it's more argumentative, I think, if I can't see him on the headphones with the headphones, I'm just listening to him and reacting to him.
Oh, I see. And
I've known Sam for a long time too. Sam was in Boston when he was starting out. He was in the comedy team with John Benjamin. Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Another thing I love too, like about the whole dynamic of Bob's Burger and the connection between home movies and Bob's Burgers is like how so many people on the movies is now on Bob's Burgers, including yourself, H. John Benjamin, Sam Cedar, Andy Kindler. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, Andy Kindler. Yeah.
Kindler. You mentioned Melissa Ogalski is now a producer on the show. Brendan Small appeared on, I think, a couple of episodes as the animal control guy. It's so cool. And I believe home movies came on Adult Swim in 2001, but it was originally aired in 1999 on UPN. I still remember watching as an 11-year-old watching home movies, and now 10 years later, I'm watching the same dynamic like in 2001, where it was Coach McGurk and Mr. Lynch, and now it's the same dynamic. It's you and H. John Benjamin, but it's different characters as Ron and Bob, of course.
Right. And we're friendly together in Bob's Burgers, if anything. But yeah, we did a couple of pilots together too, where the two of us were the main characters that were pretty funny. I mean, I still have the tapes, and I can't remember what they were about. I couldn't tell you what they were about, but it was the same company. I mean, Lauren's been just punched away until he got a show like this that was great. Bob's Burgers just really clicked,
I agree.
Yeah.
But did Lord also portray the Brendan's baby sister in home movie?
That's a good question. I know what you're saying. I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't know who did that. It might have been Melissa, because there weren't that many of us in the studio. So it could have been Melissa.
I only asked because I see in the credits they say, I mean, I look on the IMDb and it says that Lauren did the voice. I just wanted to verify if that was true.
Oh, that would be the case then, probably, if they say that, if IMDb has it.
And I remember one episode, by the way, we talked about with the check, though, where it says Donald Lynch. That was the episode where Coach McGurk goes for, what's it called, lifeguard classes. And it's the episode where Brendan is singing that song, Trust Yourself, and he breaks his arm. And I think Melissa and Jason also pretend to break their arms.
Yeah. I remember that vaguely. The whole thing about the music being in home movies and Bob's Burgers is that in the beginning with home movies, there wasn't that much music. And then I think they started realizing that they would make more money with music than they would with just voiceovers or the actual cartoon itself, because it's two different fields. And so they started adding songs. So now Bob's Burgers like always has a song at the end during the credits at least, and that brings in a bit of cash for them. So it keeps the show going, which is great.
Sweet. And
Yeah.
did you work with Larry Murphy before Bob's Burgers, or did you? This was the first time working with him?
I knew Larry, but I didn't. I did work with him actually a little bit before because he did sketches with Brendan in Boston when I was there at uh, oh God, Rick is going to kill me if I can't think of the name of the comedy studio, which was on the third floor of a Chinese restaurant, and they did comedy up there with a stage in the corner, and those guys did sketches, and I met Larry then, and we hit it off. And I don't know if I did any sketches with them, but I knew Larry for quite a while. From I wasn't living in Boston anymore at that time, but I was visiting Boston enough to do gigs and things. And yeah, Larry's a great guy, super great. I did like a voice of his brother as a joke, not of his brother. I just did his voice, and Lauren was talking about bringing me in as his brother, which hasn't happened yet, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. And like for Bob's Burgers though, like would you say like what would be like your favorite Ron episode? I mean, not just Ron episode, but a favorite episode of Bob's Burgers in general.
You know, I knew this question or these questions would happen, and I don't have favorite episodes. Like if you ask me about home movies, I could tell you I don't like that cat episode. But mostly because those guys were just ribbing me and making me do stuff. But my favorite episodes in Bob's Burgers were the ones where I was featured a little bit more, like that puppet episode uh, written by Katie Crown, I think, who wrote that episode. And it's kind of based on a puppet theater that's here in LA called the Bob Baker Puppet Theater. And I enjoyed that episode. I enjoyed the episodes where I wasn't just going, "Hi, Bob." If it's an episode where I have a few lines, I enjoy it a lot more, of course. Or if we come back, or if I'm in like 3 different scenes in an episode. So I'm generalizing your answer, but the more of me, the more I enjoyed them. Yeah.
Love it. And now you also have done work on one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows, Adventure Time, as Mr. Pig.
Oh wow. Yeah.
What was your thoughts and memories on doing Adventure Time?
I could talk about that cartoon a long time. It's just such a crazy cartoon. I don't know how many characters are in it, but there's quite a few. And I forgot, I think I was originally brought in to play the pig. And it was in an episode where they were challenging, they wanted to get information out of our heroes, I think. And they were saying that this pig will eat you if you don't tell us. And I think that's how that character started. And my first line was something like, "I really don't want to do it, but they'll kill my family if I don't eat you," which was just a total deadpan, which was pretty great. And now I discuss with them all the time when I go in. I go, "Yeah, but he wouldn't be that excited about it, Ron. Just he gets excited now. He's not totally deadpan anymore." And I think he was Pig and then became Mr. Pig, especially after he got married to Tree Trunks, who makes apple pies. Really absurd cartoon. That's what I love about it. I've played a few voices on it, but Mr. Pig really stuck. With my whole career, when I talked to my one of my nieces in Florida, she says, "Well, what do you do? I know you do comedy." And I said, "Well, I've done this and this, and I just did Adventure Time." And she went, "Adventure Time? Adventure? What did you do on that show?" And I went, I played the pig." "You're the pig?" And it was like super, super excited about it. And then I went to see her sing at her high school, And afterwards, everybody was like outside milling around, and I could see her friends like pointing at me. That's the guy that plays the pig. Once again, another not a it is a minor character. It's one of the minor characters on the show, but super fun character. I sang on that show also. And everybody on that show was really good at what they did. Everybody, all the characters they played, and Tom Kenny worked on the show, and he's a good friend of mine. It was good to see him all the time. The director was great. I wish I could think of his name right now. He explained to me once. I said, "Well, this is weird. They have a gigantic child now, and I can't think of the name of the child, but we had a big, gigantic child for these two tiny little people, and of course that's pretty funny." And I said, why does this happen and that happen? And he would like explain the sequence of the show, and I didn't know this, but they're in an order. The shows are all in an order. They all have a show that follows another show. So there's a continual link to everything on that whole series. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Did you watch the show? You probably didn't watch the show.
Wait, Adventure Time?
Yeah.
Oh, I watched it. I'm a huge fan of it. I love John DiMaggio was on the show too. He played Jake.
That's right. Oh yeah. Pretty fun show. Pretty fun show. Always fun sitting around waiting to go in to play a pig, or a banana guard. Yeah. I always recommend that show to people.
Now, you were also on one of my favorite shows too, American Dad. And I remember when I watched this episode, and I remember exactly who you played too. You played the anorexic guidance counselor when Stan became anorexic.
Holy. Yep. Wow, you definitely are a fan of animation. Holy mackerel.
In 2006, and I remember I said, "Wait a minute, I know that voice." Then I played back the whole movie's episode. That's Mr. Lynch's voice. What were your memories working on American Dad, and of course working with Seth MacFarlane?
Well, he's such a pro. I mean, I don't know if he actually had much input, but he was there. He loves home movies. That was one reason I was on the show. He's a big home movies fan. That show was totally professional. I went in and came out like about 40 minutes later, and I was done. They trusted everything I did, which wasn't a lot. I mean, there wasn't a big stretch for that character, but the people are great over there. Linda LaMontagne, who is the casting person for that show and Family Guy and a ton of other stuff, actually, is great. She gave input before I even walked into the studio as just a casting person, and told me what she liked about what I do, and she encouraged me to do more of that type of thing. But American Dad was great. It was really fun.
Cool.
Didn't spend a lot of time though. Whereas in Bob's Burgers, you're there sometimes for the day, even if you only have 6 lines, because they record it in order. And it can record it in order, take a break for lunch, and come back and finish it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I noticed too, like, you're the only actor that I know so far, voice actor, that has worked with 2 people with the last name Shaw. You worked with in American Dad, Wendy Shaw played one of the characters, and of course,
Wendy Shaw.
and you worked with Kristen Shaw on Bob's Burgers.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kristen's great. Yeah, she can do no wrong. Kristen I've run into many times, and then wound up working on Bob's Burgers with her. Yeah, super talented. What a great voice. Yeah.
Now, you were. I don't think we talked much about Dr. Katz though. Like, I just want to get your memories on doing Dr. Katz.
Sure. When I went in there, I knew what the show was, where they take your act and they animate part of your act. For some reason, when I knew that's what the concept was, I didn't want to do that. I couldn't see anything in my act that was going to be something to be animated that would make it even better. So I created things that went in there. I had a phone ringing thing. I would have the phone ring to distract from him doing it. I had puppets. I just came up with things that I didn't want to be analyzed. That was basically my through line on that show. It was the same studio as Home Movies, but you would be in one booth, but you would be able to see across the way in another booth where Jonathan Katz was, and you would basically work it out with them. And the magic of that show was editing. They were just great at editing, and I think Lauren did the editing on that show. They would pick the things that were great for animating and also to move the story along. And then they liked what I did so much that they had me come in once, and I just recorded without Jonathan. I just recorded like, I don't know, it felt like 2 hours. It was almost 2 hours of just stuff and ideas and props and noises. And they used it during, was it Fred Stoller that was on that show?
I believe so, yes. Right,
Fred Stoller was on the show as the extra guy, and then I became kind of like the extra guy on the last 2 seasons, where I'd sit in the waiting room and never go in, or when I went in, I would avoid giving straight answers to his analyzing me. I have a phone go off. I loved what they did with what you gave them. You would give them a bunch of stuff and dialogue, and they would pick stuff out of me, and they put it in shows. Like one show, you would think Richard Little, wow. Richard Lewis would be great on Dr. Katz, being analyzed and everything. But for some reason, it didn't work out that much for him. So I'm in one of his episodes, doing extra stuff. It's funny, as a voiceover artist, I'm also aware that I say a lot, and it comes out. It's not even a thought. There's no thought involved. I almost did it again, but I kept myself from doing it. Oh, there it is.
I do.
Dr. Katz was great to put a button on that.
Sweet. I do have a couple of questions, a few questions, because a couple and few can be all sorts of things. Before we conclude, one question that that one of my friends and fellow Bob's Burger fans wants to know. They say, I'm a huge fan of Bob's Burgers. I love the Ron character. How can I get an autograph from Mr. Ronald Lynch?
That's an interesting question. I know people have mailed things to hilarious. What's the studio? Box. What's the name of the studio that records Bob's Burgers? I can't get BritBox out of my head, so now I can't think of it. Wow. You can mail it to the studio that records it, and I will get it. And I will sign it, and I will send it back to you. I think that's the best way. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to give me my address right now. How else could we do it?
That's true. I mean, I guess maybe like email. Like that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. Wow. So that means you would give everybody my email.
No. I wouldn't do that. I totally respect your privacy.
Oh, they can write to me on Instagram.
Yeah.
They can write to me on Instagram, and we'll figure something out.
Yeah, of course. Now, if you had to choose between Mr. Lynch and the team of Mr. Lynch and Coach McGurk, or Bob and Ron, who would you choose?
The funny thing is, Bob and Ron is the name of my comedy team that I was in for years. So you said Coach McGurk. Oh, Bob's Burgers. The Coach McGurk, I would pick that. Because my relationship with Bob at Bob's Burgers, I think I like him, but I think we're kind of friends, but there's really not a lot of interaction. Whereas with McGurk, yes, that does happen. Yes.
I see. And Ron, because this is an open forum, this is a part where I allow all my guests to talk about anything they want. They can talk about anything they want, say anything they want. The floor is now yours, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, I encourage everybody to watch my show called Tomorrow. It's on Instagram Live every Saturday Pacific time at 11 p.m. I know that's stuff on the East Coast. It's at Ron Lynch 1. At Ron Lynch 1 is the site. I am in a movie called Killer Raccoons 2. I don't know where you're going to be able to get that or see it. It's the sequel. It's a B movie sequel to a movie that's Killer's Raccoon 1. That's what I just did, which is pretty crazy. I'm coming up. I'm doing a project at Titmouse Animation. Yeah, I pretty much want to promote my Tomorrow show, which is every Saturday at 11 p.m. Pacific time. And I have a lot of great acts on the show. Last week, Dana Gould and Bobcat Goldthwait were on the show. It was a really fun show. It's a semi-variety show on the web. And Brendan does the show occasionally, though he will complain that he wants to be done by 11:45 p.m. So, yeah, join me on that show.
Awesome. And let me just say before we conclude this interview, Ron, is that as a longtime fan of your work, I think you're one of the best, like, like one of a kind voice actor. Like, I've been a fan of your work for a very, very long time. Like, the premise of my show is, not only because I just have the fun of just interviewing people I grew up watching, whether it was like as a kid or as an adult, because,
Cool.
But it's my way.
It's a great idea too, to get back at you. You've got a great idea.
Thank you. And
yeah.
And it's also my way, most importantly, it's my way to say thank you to the people like I grew up watching as a kid. Like my way of saying thank you to you for like those memories you gave me watching Mr. Lynch on home movies, watching, even the like, bit characters like the ones you played on American Dad. Like, like I'll still remember that episode, like because Ron Lynch was in the episode, like, or Bob's Burgers, like watching Bob's Burgers, like in 2011, that. It was the show aside. It gave me an alternative to watch as opposed to watching two shows I love, The Simpsons and Family Guy, because King of the Hill was now off the air, and now I have a third show to watch, like which was Bob's Burgers, which to this day I'm a big fan of, and that's why the premise of my show is basically to interview people I grew up watching and to give my kudos and thank yous to.
Oh, sure. Well, with you and everybody else, write in and ask for more Ron on Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, and also. Ron, I'll always be Team Lynch, Team Rob, Team Ron. I'll always be that,
Cool.
Again, and also I'm going to send you a copy of this interview, like as soon as I'm done editing this, which I'm going to get on right away. I want to thank you so much, sir, for not only doing this interview, but those memories you gave me watching all these shows.
Oh, Pete, you're the best. Thanks for having me. You're the best, sir. I had a great time.
Thank you.
I'll see everybody soon. If you want to write to me at Ron Lynch 1 on Instagram.
I definitely will. Just say again, and also before we conclude, I just want to say, I do this with all my guests, and that is, you deserve something that I wait a long time to do since I've been a fan, and that is, thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Lynch.
I will treasure that forever. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Have fun.
You too.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.